Hello, everyone. Welcome back to a very, very special episode of Gear 182. We are joined by a legend in the industry,
Oh,
Mr. Matty B, Luthier
I guess
extraordinaire.
I guess I'm a legend now. It's been said.
How
Great
you doing, Matt? You good?
to be here. Fantastic. Great to be here.
Good,
That's
good.
awesome. Thank you again for jumping on. And it's with it's been we've seen all your builds. We've seen not even just from the Blink side, but other artists that you worked with. So this is definitely a huge honor for us to have you on. So thank
Oh,
you for taking the time.
Fantastic.
so, for anyone that might not know kind of what you do, Matty, can you give us a brief kind of introduction to kind of what you do, and then maybe we'll probably kind of look to kind of how you got started and involved in the industry.
Yeah, I do whatever the hell I want. And I
The
like it like
dream.
that. Yeah, I like it like that. No, I started tinkering with guitars when I was a kid, when I was like 12 years old, and my curiosity was stronger than my ability to learn and the patience to sit down and practice. So I was taking my guitars apart, and of course Eddie Van Halen was painting his, so I had to paint mine, and it's this whole thing kind of went up. But the bug started at my first concert when I saw Kiss when I was 12 years old in '79. I'm dating myself, and I saw the guitar tech handing Paul Stanley his guitar on the side of the stage, and I was like, "How do you get that job?" And then and my uncle said, "I don't know how you get that job." Well, then it's strange because that kind of opened up a storybook. Of course, we were always big Kiss fans and stuff like that. But moving to Hollywood, I came to visit my brother. It was my birthday. I was turning 21, and I had already worked for a year or so in the food service industry, and it realized it wasn't really happening. So I came to California, visited my brother, and stayed. And that was in the summer of '88. Uh,
Oh,
I worked
wow.
at a restaurant for a couple years, and then I had a shoe in at Studio Instrument Rentals,
Yeah.
and I was delivering band gear and pianos for a couple years, and then I started working at the sound stages where the rehearsals were. So I started interacting with artists and top level performers, and some of them my heroes even. And so I kind of gelled into that scene from the backstage door, so to speak. And then eventually, I got into the repair shop, repairing their inventory, and it was mostly out of instinct, but also my curiosity kind of drove me to want to do it well. And then started
Mm.
working on other people's guitars, and then we did a couple of tours. I was invited to go on a tour with Love Hate, opening for Ozzy Osbourne
Wow.
in 1993. It was a small gig. I met Zach Wild then, and we were both 21 years old or 22 years old, maybe 20, yeah, 21 or 22. And
Wow.
I learned how to work around these people at a young age, without being a super fan, and
Mhm.
kind of wanted to be a part of the moment, and I realized I was that kid asking, how do you get that job, handing off the guitars to people on stage. But it was a lot more than just that, of course. And I started to doing some studio work as a guitar tech. Would do sessions, albums, whatever. I was on the list of several record producers at the time that were
Oh,
doing a
okay.
lot of stuff.
So would that be kind of
Um,
going in and making sure the band's kind of guitars and basses and things will be kind of ready and set for the
Basically,
recording?
in-house, yeah, on
Yeah.
demand. We had some producers I worked for that would, change these gauge of strings. Right now, we got to try a different gauge. We have to try a different tuning. We have to
Oh, wow.
something's not right with this. Get on that right away, So it's kind of like on the fly stuff. A lot of it was sitting around,
Yeah.
no lie. But it kind of tempered me in the way of being in the studio and learning how to behave around these people, and that was a big part of what I'm doing now, because how you conduct yourself with people. Uh, some people will say, I don't ever want to work with that person again, and never tell you why. So you don't want to, so you just look around, basically being observant and constantly honing the skills, never really stopping. There's no school for it. So usually you just fix problems as they arise. And then live, when an amp goes down or a switch goes down or a chord goes, something happens, goes haywire, you got to kind of be on it, and that takes a certain kind of I don't know, nerve, I guess, to be under that pressure because you don't really
There's the
see it.
feel.
Most people don't see it. If you don't see it getting fixed, you're doing a good job. But if your singer's yelling at you in the middle of the show because something isn't working, then or calls you out on stage in front of 5,000 people, then yeah, you get your punishment. But anyway, as far as that goes, eventually I got into the setup shop at Gibson at the artist relations office and set up their new guitars for their endorsees. So if a guitar came in for the Eagles or whoever, I'd make sure to get it out of the box, set it up, make sure the frets are nice, make sure there's no buzzing, all that stuff. Kind of give it the right round Rogering, if you will.
Yeah.
and then and then and then I got a call from Ibanez in 1994. A friend of mine was actually he's the same guy that got me into SIR, Roger Bell, and he was in artist relations for Gibson for a while when I met him originally. And then he was managing some bands, including my brother's band at the time, but he was also working with Steve Vai.
Oh wow.
And then I get a call one day that said, "Hey man, they need a guy at Ibanez," and I didn't even know they had a shop in Los Angeles. But yeah, it was the West Coast office, and it was a very very small shop with the most basic tools. And
Would that
and
be
the
all
guy that
like?
was working.
Would that be all
What's
kind of
that?
hand? Would that be all kind of hand tools then? No
Well, there
CNC.
were a lot of what we did we had to do by hand because either the shop just couldn't support it or we didn't even have a long belt sander. So we'd have to level
Oh wow.
fingerboards by hand and radius
Wow.
fingerboards by hand with a radius block. And so in a way, it's kind of strange how it's very Japanese
Yeah.
run, and it was very bureaucratical when it came to getting tools or new machinery or things like that. So we had to get proficient at doing things by hand, and we weren't doing high volume stuff, but we were doing everything different, like prototypes. We were getting, I remember getting blueprints that were cut into pieces and faxed over to us, and then having to tape the faxes
Oh,
back together on our end, and then all these nothing's straight, no line is straight, everything's curved and digitized and what have you. But we'd have to make patterns and templates of that, and then make a prototype that would go to Japan. They would review it, either say yay or nay, or have us make another one or do changes. And there was a lot of that back and forth. But at the same time, we were supporting all their artists, from their B artists all the way up to the heads at the time, which was bands like Korn and Limp Bizkit. 7-string bands were kind of getting big. Um, we were doing a lot of like whatever was pop at the time. I remember building a guitar for Sublime, and I
All
was like, I
right.
can't believe it. I mean, I'm listening to this band on the radio, and here I'm making a guitar for the guy. It was at 25
Wow.
years old, it was kind of a mind blower, because I
yeah.
really felt like I was handed this gig, and I had to prove myself because I had no credentials as a builder. And I could do setups. I could do setups and fretwork and nuts. I could do all the basic stuff I felt at the time really well.
Yeah.
Um, and later on, I found it was barely good enough. Like I needed to get better and better. Working for people like Vi and Satriani and them, they were very demanding as far as the feel. And so we had
Yeah.
to really study the feel of these guitars. And, some
Yeah.
players will grab a guitar and just play it.
Yeah.
Some players will grab a guitar and just go, I can't play this. There's just I don't know what it is, but I just can't play it. Or they might be able to tell you that it's too fat, it's too wide, the frets are too tall, there's too much radius, this and that. But the average player doesn't really know why it doesn't feel or play good. So we had to analyze, and I got to sit down with these guys and really pick their brain on a player to a builder level.
Hmm.
Yeah.
So all fandom aside, as much as I wanted to go, oh my God, you guys are my favorite guitar player ever, had to sit down and be professional and really take notes and learn how to incorporate that into a build. So at
Right.
first, like shaping necks, for example, shaping a neck is there's many ways you can do it. But the way we did it, it gave us a basic shape, and then we'd have to hand scrape it or hand shape it to the final measurement, which you can screw up really easy. I mean, you can really make one cut too much, and it's a
And that's it.
if it's a
Game over.
millimeter off, it's going to make a huge difference,
Yeah.
and you don't realize that at the time. But as your skills get better and you start getting more in tune of what your end product should be
Mm.
and how to get there, um, under pressure because you
Yeah,
got
I
to
can
turn this stuff
imagine.
around. You got to
Yeah.
turn this stuff around. We got a FedEx box going out tomorrow, and you're still doing inlays, and so you got to still do the frets and put the neck on and rah, rah, rah. So, anyways, there was all these weird scenarios that I was thrown into that your average builder doesn't get the opportunity to enjoy, so to speak.
Yeah.
So working with these guys one on one, and then ultimately, I remember my boss opening a case. It was an Ibanez flight case from the '70s, and he goes, "I'm not going to do the accent because I don't want to insult anybody." He goes, "Matty, you have to fix Paul Stanley's guitar." And I open it up, and it's the actual guitar I saw him play in 1979 with the cracked mirror.
Wow.
It was a cracked mirror Ibanez Iceman, and it was
Wow.
the one, and I couldn't. It
Full
was like
circle.
it was like the case opened up and this golden light was shining on my face. And I was just like, and the neck's in one part of it and the body's there. And I was just like, no way. It's like I instantly flashed back to that kid going, how do you get that job? Handing him his guitar. Now I'm fixing the thing. So it was, and there were many, many poignant parts of my life that I recalled at the time. It was like
Mm.
these moments where I go, wow, I totally remember thinking like, what's it like being with, meeting so and so, or what's it like doing this, and then living it. And it's strange because it sounds fantastic, but I've really relived a lot of things that I wondered or thought about or somehow planted a seed during the course of my life. Um, and some of it was cool and some of it was careful what you wish for. There was that, like ultimately I toured with Kiss. I made guitars for them. I made guitars for Gene on my own in my own shop. And then I toured with them and then realized that was the worst thing I could have ever wished for. It was a neat experience, but it wasn't like, oh my God, that was just the most highlight of my life. It was a really strange thing, but life nonetheless.
Yeah.
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 But everything kind of happened organically with me. I was at Ibanez for 4 years. I kind of had enough of the corporate world, the
Yeah.
pressure. There was 2 years of the 5 years I was there that I worked alone in the shop.
Oh wow.
And this is ordering wood, ordering parts, staying on top of the paint booth. We had a file. We had to fill out these forms every time we sprayed a guitar. We had to fill out how much paint we used, the VOC content. It was all had to do with the air quality management. So I had
Jeez.
changed the dust collectors, maintain the machines, and then you got Korn sending three of their custom guitars back with broken necks, all covered in stickers that need to go out, in a couple of days. This one needs frets. George Benson, his old guitar got wet and needs to get fixed, and stuff like that. And so there's these curveballs thrown at you all the time. And then on top of it, they'd want to have meetings, and so you're sitting in a meeting room all covered in dust and everyone's talking about the schedule for the week. And then, the A&R guy comes down and goes, oh, by the way, we need this new da-da-da-da-da prototype made for so-and-so. They're going to be in town. What? When am I going to do that? So I kind of my brain kind of adjusts to how the pressure was thanks to
Yeah.
the food industry. The food business is high, high pressure in the
Yeah.
restaurants. There's no room for mistakes. There's no room for error. Timing is everything. And I was able to incorporate scrap wood, using scrap wood to make things,
Yeah.
scrap food to make the special for the day. I mean, a lot of it went hand in hand. So I kind of rose to the occasion, and I was younger. I had a lot of energy then, and I was really driven on just wanting to be a great guitar maker, and one day having my name on the headstock of my own guitars, you know. And so at Ibanez, after 5 years, I got to work with Tak Hosono and Mike Lippy, who were both legends. They were doing that 30 years before I even thought of starting. So these guys knew a lot, and I learned a lot from them, and they were both great and patient with me. And so leaving that with that kind of education gave me a lot of confidence to just be like, you know what, I can do this. I can do this on my own. I know a lot of guitar techs from touring. I did a lot of session work. I know a lot of producers. And then once I got my shop in North Hollywood, uh, it was a block away from Mate's rehearsal where Guns N' Roses rehearsed. I mean, you name it, they rehearsed there, and they were literally the next block over. And sometimes I'd get these guys popping into my place because they just heard I was there, and I was in the middle of a parking lot in North Hollywood. And you're like, "Hey, what's so and so doing here? Oh my God, what are you doing?" And so like these weird little things started happening that were, and it was all word of mouth. I never
Hmm.
advertised, I never had to put, anything out there. So everything was through basically guitar techs and a lot of bands I worked for or knew or whatever. And it just started snowballing. And in a matter of a year or two, oh, so I left there. I'm sorry, let's rewind. I left there in 1999, November.
Yeah.
And I went to the city and I got a business license dated January 1st, 2000. And I left Ibanez officially mid-November and opened my shop January 1st, 2000.
Wow.
Wow.
Just
And
like that.
so
That's crazy.
it was a big decision because I had health care, I had retirement, I was vested X amount. I mean, I had a small savings going on, and I literally could have retired. I could have retired from there 10 years ago, literally, if I stayed. I could have
Wow.
uh, left with a pension and all that stuff. But the corporate world just wasn't for me. And I was making guitars that I was starting to lose interest in, or sometimes they propose you to make a guitar and you're like, oh, really? I got to work with MDF? Like, how do you drill MDF? Why? Why are you using MDF anyway? And so I'd have to constantly bend to these things and try not to sound like an artist, but I had my own vision in mind. And I knew
Yeah.
when I started there that I wasn't going to be there forever. And so, but sometimes things happen sooner than you expect, and you have to jump through that door whether you're ready or not.
Hmm.
And it's nerve-wracking and it's scary because you're like, wow, I got to pay rent now. I have to support myself. I can't,
Yeah.
how is this going to work? But it was never an issue. It was never like what if, or I can't, or I won't. It was just do it. And that was the best advice I got from a guitar guy. I used to go up and down the Sunset Strip when they had a lot of records or guitar shops,
Yeah.
makers and things. And
Yeah.
let me sweep your floor. Let me go through your screw box. Let me, whatever. And just let me be here. I want to be here. And no, 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 no. Finally, Mark Lacey, Guitar Garage. He's British. I used to go there and just watch him, and I know it'd annoy him. And I thought maybe one day he'll just finally go, fine, go back there and sweep the floor. But he looked up at me and he said, Matt, you just buy a guitar and fix it. If you can do it, great. You're on your way. And I'm like, all right. So I went to a pawn shop and I bought a Les Paul and refretted it and changed the pickups. And so, not it wasn't all necessarily in that order. That was early on, but nonetheless, that was the
Yeah.
that was the kick in the pants, was just do it. Don't let
Don't
anybody
hold
tell you
back.
different. So, yeah, there's kind of, I can bounce back and forth to how I started, where I started and when, but the core of it was where the basically where I really really got going in the was on the roof of my building on Whitley Avenue in Hollywood, and it was an apartment building, and there was a closet space on top. And when I was working at SIR, SIR moved, and they had a spot set up for a guitar shop. And so I
Yeah.
started bringing my tools down there, and one of the owners had a big fight and said, this is going to be storage. You don't get a shop. What are you talking about a shop? Da, 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 da. We don't need a shop. Blah, 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 blah. So I was like, okay, it's clearly can't stay here. So my friend was managing the building and offered me this closet, basically big enough for a workbench, and it had a beautiful view of Hollywood. You could see Capitol Records and all around the whole city. And it was just
Wow.
this little closet with a window in it. And I started making cigar box guitars. A friend of mine and I were going to get some rolling papers, and we were at a smoke shop, and they had a pile of cigar boxes. So I started tapping on one, and I'll show it to you. It's not functional now, but this is the box I was tapping on. And
Wow.
I said, you could put a neck on this and make a little guitar. Why not? That'd be kind of cool. And so I made this
Wow.
this this neck really quick out of some scrap wood and and a fretboard, and it worked. And then my brother used it to record a song on a record, and then
So
somebody wanted
cool.
one, and another person wanted one, and then
I was going to say it
30
led
years
to
and 350. What's that?
I was going to say it led to make one for Paul McCartney, right?
Yeah, I did.
Yeah.
Actually, that was an order from Johnny Depp. because Johnny knew Paul was coming to town. They were going to
Oh,
meet, and he wanted to buy him a gift. And I also made him a wine box bass, an upright wine box bass,
wow.
lefty, of course. But yeah, I didn't know right away who it was for. They just ordered a left-handed resonator model, one with
Yeah.
the pink handled, and and then they ordered a bass. And they said, "Can you have these done by next week?" And I was like, "Well, yeah, I guess if I have
A week?
to." Yeah.
That's
Wow.
crazy.
So well, that's Ibanez. Ibanez kicked my pants to be able to do things pretty
Quick.
quickly in a lot of ways, and so the procedure of building kind of got, you just develop this stuff like over time, like anything.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
the cigar box thing, I didn't think would be of any significance in my career at all.
Yeah.
And Roger Giffen was the artist relations luthier at the time when I moved here. He was the guy that did the repairs. He put a Floyd Rose on a Les Paul for Alex Lifeson and all this stuff. And Roger Bell, who I mentioned earlier, was the artist relations guy at Gibson. So when I came here to visit my brother's band got a Gibson endorsement because the A&R guy was their manager. So they invited me to their A&R office, which is not far from my shop here on Sadakoy Avenue in North Hollywood. And and I met him, and he was one of the first British guys I ever met. And I didn't
Wow.
realize his history. Like he was in London in 1968, working
Yeah.
on guitars. So he was working on everybody. He's had his mitts on Jeff Beck's guitars. I mean, everybody's guitars he had his mitts on. So this guy to me was instantly a god. He was just like, just shaking his hand. I was just thinking, oh God, this is a guy I got to know because he can put a Floyd Rose on a Les Paul. This is way before I even started doing guitar work. So he ended up opening a shop at the Guitar Center in Hollywood. And when I was at Ibanez at the time, and one of the guys that I worked with temporarily knew him, so we would go and visit Roger, and I'd start bringing him my stuff. And so I brought him a Sig Fiddle, one of my cigar box guitars, and he goes, "Oh, this is funny. What are you wasting your time on these for?" I go, "Listen, it plays. You can play chords on it. Like it works." He goes, "Yeah, that's cute, Matty. We're wasting your time. I don't know what you're thinking with this. Why don't you make real guitars?" And I left there, and rather than being discouraged, it was like I had a laugh because I thought this is exactly how Hollywood stories start.
Yeah.
Somebody's telling you you're useless, you're worthless, you're wasting your time. Rah, 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 rah. So then fast forward, I mean, there's so much that happened in between that, before meeting Paul McCartney. But
Yeah.
long story short, he wanted another amp, one of my wine box amps that I make with the resonator. So I showed up at Sony Studio, or I get a call from his tech. It's John from Paul McCartney's band. We want another one of those amps. We have to plug it in the wall. Da 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 da. And I was like, all right. He goes, we need it by Thursday. Can you bring it to the studio? And I was like, that was 2 days. I said, yeah, sure. So I knocked one out, drove to Sony Studios in the middle of the afternoon, bearded, full of sawdust. Like I just got the thing done and threw it in my car and left. And I'm being
Wow.
escorted into the sound stage at Sony by this huge his bodyguard. The guy's like 6'3". He's just massive. He's probably in the Secret Service for all I know. And all right, come in, follow me. Let's get in here. All right, stand over there, wait for him. So I'm on stage, and so there's Paul on stage, and he's playing Another Day on 12 string, and I was just like, oh my God, I love that song. And I'm
Wow.
trying not to geek out. I'm trying so hard not to geek out. And because by then I had already met all my fans, I got to see so much and do so much. Anyways. So he had two guitar techs, and one of them was like, "Yeah, I opened up that amp. I saw how you made it, mate. It's really clever, And I was like, "Oh, thanks." And so then somebody came up to me and said, "Paul wants to have a word with you. Just go to catering and sit there." And so I'm saying, he goes, "Have a cup of tea or something. Wait for Paul. Wait for him here." And so Paul comes around the corner with his tech, and they go, "Oh, this is Matt. He made your cigar box." And he's like, and I went to shake his hand, and I said, "Hello, Sir Paul. Nice to meet you." And he goes, "Oh, give me a hug, brother. Come here." And he gave me this huge hug, and he's like,
Wow.
totally disarmed me. Told me how he got his Sig Fiddle. Dave Grohl bought it for him, or I'm sorry, Johnny Depp bought it for him. he shows up at Grohl's studio to do the Sound City movie. And I showed up, and I figured they already had a bass player, so I brought my sig fiddle, and I never really played slide before. And I was like, what? And he goes like, yeah, I've never played slide before. He goes, but I put it on and it started doing these things. I wasn't even really thinking, it was just doing it. And I was just like, no, there was no words that could describe how I felt when he was telling me one-on-one what happened when he put his sig fiddle on. And it was just like, he's like, it just started doing things, and I didn't even try. And it blew my mind because when I first conjured the idea of using a paint can lid and making a spider from leftover metal and things, I just felt like it needed to be done. There was no mission. It wasn't because I was bored or whatever. It just felt like something that needed to be done. And I wanted it to sound like an old radio when you heard it, like through the amp. I had an idea of what it should sound like, and it did. And now all of a sudden I'm talking to this, the man himself, and he's telling me about Alan Johannes. It's like, oh, your friend Al plays an 8-string. I just love what he does. And super humble. I mean, the nicest guy in the world. And I thought everybody with any kind of inkling of success should have that kind of mannerism towards people in general, not be a dick or whatever. This guy he was so complimentary and so nice and just really informative. And it was no bullshit. And I got to hang out with him for like 25 minutes. And he offered me lunch. Hey, stay for lunch, if you want to have lunch. And so it was something, the cigar box thing it was an exercise too, because you have to do the frets, you have to do the nut. It's fundamentally the same as making a guitar in a lot of ways. So the more you did, the better you got. And I sold a few after that. I don't recall how many. I don't really keep track of that stuff. But the guitar thing just kind of snowballed. It just, it was one thing after the next. And then all of a sudden I'm making basses for Gene. Now, the whole Blink-182 thing happened with Plus 44. And one of my dear friends, that's we'll lead up to that. So my dear friend who's passed away, Robert Ortiz, he was Mark Hoppus's bass tech for a long time. I might cry because I get emotional talking about him. But he truly was one of my dear friends, and we did a lot of touring with Sugar Ray, and he worked with No Doubt when he was young.
Oh, yeah, that's right, yeah.
Yeah, he was like on the No Doubt tour when they were hot, and I was at Ibanez at the time, so he was touring with a lot of those bands in OC that was going on, and so when I started working with Sugar Ray in 2000, that was oddly enough the year I opened my shop. I spent all my money. I took out, my dad gave me a loan for 25 grand to open my shop. And I went hog wild and just spent it all. And so I needed money, and I got a call from Sugar Ray, and they needed a guitar tech for an Australian tour. And I thought, well, shit. And at the time, my relationship was kind of on the fritz. And I thought maybe it's best I get out of here for a while and just, let her rip. So we went to Australia. We did 6 weeks out on the road. We went all over the place, and it was a blast. And Robert and I got really close. He was pretty much the backline tech in general. He did the drums, DJ setup. I did guitars. And he was an all-around guy, and we got to be really close friends. Well, Blink got back together because he was on Blink's first tour, and he's like, "Hey, buddy, we need a guitar tech, bro. You want to go on the road?" And I was like, "Oh no, I'm sorry, it's Plus 44." And I said, "Wow." I said, "Yeah, I'll go on the road with you guys, sure." So we went to England and did a whole run in England, and it was a different experience because touring with Sugar Ray, they were like buddies. Like if there was a party, they wanted the crew there. If there was something going on, they wanted the crew there. And we were almost kind of like a security blanket, but treated very, very well. We were treated like just one of the members, And with the Plus 44 thing, it was a different vibe because you had Mark, who was, on top of the world, lead singer, bass player. I mean, the guy had the world by the balls then. And then Travis, the drummer, he had his own thing going on. And so I felt kind of like I felt part of a crew, but it was just, this is all nothing for nothing. But I worked for the guitar players, the two guitar players in the band, and
Ben
set
and
them up.
Craig.
And it's a pretty basic setup, and and things like that. And then Blink got back together, and Robert called and said, "Hey, Fender's not going to make these basses for Mark. He wants." Oh no, I'm sorry. Let me rewind. This is the Tom DeLonge guitars. So they were from what I understand, they were talking with Gibson about making a baritone 335 Tom DeLonge model. I had yet to make a 335 guitar in my guitar making days, not really realizing the complexity of making that guitar, because those tops are molded. They're molded in a steam press, and they're all consistent and they're all perfect. And and when they pop out, they don't move. They're made in a specific way. The sides are bent over a mold, over a frame with multi layers of laminate. There's a center block. There's all these things you got to figure out, and it's all three-dimensional. And at the time, I didn't have a three-dimensional carver of any sort, so I got creative. Oh, by the way, we need these guitars in 12 days. Was the order?
How many did you have to make?
3.
3. Okay.
And apparently, from what I understand, what had happened was that these guitars were they were negotiating with Gibson for a long time, and Gibson finally said, "No, we're not going to make them." And it was 12 days before the truck was leaving, and Tom needed baritones.
Yeah.
And so Robert says, "Hey, I got a guy," and he goes, "Hey, buddy, I can, if you want to make these guitars, name your price." And this just, I don't know how much they were then, but I always shoot myself in the foot. I think I always charged about half of what I should have over the years. But a lot of it was just for the opportunity to do it. So like money wasn't the issue for me. It was just the fact that I can put my name on these guitars actually on the head, and they can be on tour using these things. Okay, whatever. I don't know. It's just, I'm not grubby about money. So anyway, I got my mitts on a broken 330. It was a EBO bass, which is the 335 body. It was a 60s. I made a mold out of it, out of fiberglass, which didn't work. Then I made a mold out of plaster, which didn't work. And then I ended up making it, I used some kind of resin or something, and then pressed the guitar into a box and made an outside mold instead of an inside mold. And then went to the hardware store, bought some vinyl, some rubber hose. I happened to have a vacuum pump here, and fashioned a vacuum bag out of this vinyl and hose and vacuum pump. And I got all this veneer, which I didn't know a lot about veneer at the time. You can buy it with paper on the back. You can buy it raw. And when you work with veneer, it warps and it twists. And when it gets wet, it doesn't press flat. It's like, there's a lot that you have to know about working with veneers, especially if you're using a moisture-based glue. It's going to warp. It's going to twist it. How do you get this thing flat in the mold and make a perfect one every single time? Because I don't have time to mess around.
Yeah.
And so I was actually making these reversed. And so there was an angel on my shoulder, because I think I only had to throw away 3 or 4 blanks that didn't work out. But it was hours waiting for the glue to dry and hoping. And then when you pull it out, you hope the glue's still, anyways. There's a lot of trial and error. But my back was against the wall. And I managed to pop out 6 of these tops over a couple of days. Wow. And then I had to figure out how to make the rim, the outside. Okay, well, I got to make a mold, and I got to make a jig, and I got to make this and that. And so I figured all that out. Now I got to make a center block that the neck mounts to. When do you route the neck pocket? You can't route it when the back's on because it's curved. So, I mean, there's all these steps you have to figure out how to put this thing together. And meanwhile, I was living alone. I lived a block away from my shop at the time. I could be there 24 hours if I needed to.
Yeah.
The neck's not a problem. I knocked out the necks. I had the mahogany. I had the rosewood. I did all that stuff. I can make a neck. So, but I had to make templates and jigs to do the neck pocket, the pickup, because I wanted to do the neck pocket so it didn't have the cover at the end, the extended tenon.
Yeah.
And so I wanted mine to be a little bit different than the Gibsons in that way, because I hated seeing that cover. That was a really lazy thing to do. So, and if you cut the neck joint down a 1/2 inch, it's not going to make that much of a difference. So Anyways, I was spraying paint the night before they were doing their friends and family show at the Forum, and so he wanted a chocolate brown one with wood stripes, and then
Yeah.
there was
Black.
a one that was an aged amber. He wanted it to look like it was from the 50s, like like a
Yeah.
pawn shop guitar.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then there was another one. What was it? Black. It was black,
Black
with the-
yeah.
and those were all done with flat lacquer, and striped it off and put it up. And literally threw these things in the car and drove to the Forum, like
Wow.
strung it up, tuned it. Okay, everything's great. We're working good. Boom. Drive to the Forum, deliver them. And this is one of those weird moments where I'm thinking I'm the hero, right? Like I knocked these out in 12 days. I made 3 guitars from the phone call to the Forum. It was 12 days. And I mean, I was telling Robert, I go, one of these would take you more than a year at Gibson.
Oh, easily.
For sure.
Yeah, easily.
Easily a year, and probably $10,000 or $12,000 or more.
Not so
And
much,
so I made 3 in 12 days and hammered them to the Forum, and we got to see the show. So this is kind of funny because I never met Tom before, and I knew Mark but we didn't know each other like friends, like Robert did. So I walked into Tom's dressing room, and he was talking with some friends and stuff. And they said, "Hey, Tom, this is Matty. He made the guitars for you." He's like, "Yeah, good job, man. Good job. All right, cool." And kind of patted me on the shoulder. And I was like, "Really? Like, dude, any idea what I just did? Like really?" and I'll touch back on the Kiss thing after this too, because this is the story of my life. And so I was like, all right, well, we get a free show out of it anyways, and I got paid, so there you go, and I didn't realize how big the fan base was for Blink, because when they were big, I was at Ibanez, and I didn't really, at that time, that was a huge time in the 90s for music, and I really wasn't following anybody at the time. I was just going to work every day and knocking out what I had to do and going home, and just, it was, and occasionally we get invited to a concert here and there, but for the most part, I was kind of out of touch musically what was going on. I knew who was big, but I wasn't really following a lot of these people. And then emails start, "Hey, did you make this guitar? What's a Baratto? Shouldn't it say baritone?" There's all these message boards coming up. Yeah, there's all these message boards popping up then, right? And I'm like, and I kind of quit reading into them, because sometimes it was like, "What a stupid name." You see those comments and shit, you're like, whatever. I don't, whatever. So back to the Kiss thing. So I did fixed the cracked mirror guitar. You guys will have fun editing this, but this is all coming to me as I talk. And then they announced the reunion tour. In 1996, Kiss is reuniting the original band, and Paul Stanley wants rhinestone-covered Icemans. And I was like, whoa. So the boss comes up, and he's like, "Matty, you have to make a Paul Stanley guitar for Iceman." And I was like, no way, I get to make them. And those things, and I was so proud. And so there was a minute and a half to interject. When I started at Ibanez, the 2 custom shop guys each had a decal that they put on the back of their heads. It said Ibanez LA Custom Shop and then their name.
Yeah.
And I remember one of the first guitars I made, I didn't have a sticker. They didn't make them for me. So I took the LA Custom, and then you could use rub-on letters. So I put my name on there and immediately got slapped. "No, you can't put your name on there. This is an Ibanez guitar. This is not a." I go, "What? These other guys can have their name on it. Why can't I have?" No. And I was constantly being pushed down. Like any moment I tried to grab for myself, I was pushed down. And so it was hard to swallow at first. But the Paul Stanley ones, I really wanted to put my name on, right? Because I was like, I did these. I put hours into these things. Yeah, but I got paid my hourly rate. And remember, it was just part of the job. So I had to get used to being a cog in the wheel. I go back to SIR in Hollywood, where I used to work. Now 7 years had gone by. Walking in, I got each guitar in my hand. I'm walking in the studio of the place I used to work, where I started, and there's the band. No makeup, Kiss stuff everywhere. They're signing posters. There's all this stuff they're signing and doing that band's doing, in rehearsals. And Paul comes over and he's got like a stocking cap on and he's like, "Hey guys, what's up?" And I never really met him before. And they said, "Oh, Paul, this is Matty. He made your rhinestone. Oh, cool. Let's have a look." And he pulls them out of the case. He's like, "Hey guys, check this out." They're like, "Yeah, cool, all right." And Gene's like, like usual. And and I was like, and so the A&R guy goes, Can you get a picture with Matty and the guitars? And Paul goes, "No," and just walked away. And I was like, "Wait a minute, what? What? No picture. What are you talking about? I can't get a picture. What do you mean? And I just got, it was like a kick in the nuts. And I was just like, you gotta be kidding me. I got really like, and it took them a while for it to calm me down because I was just like, I can't believe this. Like, yeah, it doesn't matter. So I quickly learned you can't be a fan when you work among these people. You just can't. It's just it will always bite you in the ass. So, but sometimes you don't learn your lesson. Anyway, back to the Blink thing. So I did those 3 for Tom in 12 days and got tons of people asking about them, but I wasn't in a position to produce them. I wasn't, there's no way I could produce them and profit from them. So, and that kind of went away. And then later on, the Plus 44 thing happened. And then, or Blink got back together. Robert calls, Fender's not going to make these basses for these signature basses. And we need like 6 of them or more.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, what are we going to do? So I can spill the beans because, well, no one's going to get in trouble now. But, Mark could get anything he wanted from Fender.
Yeah.
So Robert says, I need 8 Fender P basses. And so I made a pattern of the Jaguar body, his Jaguar body, because it has a swimming pool where the pickups go because they're backwards.
Yeah.
And I made a pattern of the pickguard and basically took all the parts off of a P bass and moved them onto a body. And then whatever color he wanted, I painted. If he wanted a pink one or a white one, or sometimes an artist would paint one and they'd want it clear coated and assembled. And so Robert would, "Hey buddy, I got another body for you, bro. I want to come over." And so I ended up making like, I don't know, 6 or 7 bodies, which David, I think you got one of them. And you got the pink one. Yeah. You got that was one of them that I made for Mark. So anyways, I had he just started not, basically whatever you need to make them, and we're going to send more bases over to you. So I was taking brand new bases apart and taking all the parts off of them, putting them on these guitars, and then Robert would get the cases and the bodies back. I don't ever know what happened to any of them, but anyways, that's where that all started. And then and it was a really, really good relationship for a long time. And then Robert passed, and then I haven't heard from them since, which is fine, I guess. Now I think the company's got a little bit more hip as to like, when a signature like them, Mark or Tom wants something, make it. Because they'll get it made one way or the other, and it will sell. They'll sell them.
Yeah.
They'll sell them every time. So, but I'm not in that. It's not my world.
So Matty, when they came to do the Jag basses, I guess with Fender not being, or I guess at the time anyways, didn't have the means to make a Jaguar bass with just the inverted pickups and leaving the other pickup by the bridge off, I guess. Correct? Is that kind of
correct? Because it was just an inverted P pickup. There was no jazz pickup on there. So I think, I don't know what's, after working for Ibanez for so long, it's hard to ask why a company doesn't do something because there's so many things involved and it's usually bottom line is money.
Yeah.
But I think a lot of it is timing too, because like, I think when Mark wanted these basses, they didn't have the time to tool up or get ready to promote. A big part of a company like that is promoting everything, and making sure all their stores can get, their limited amount or whatever it is and producing enough so someone's not left out. There's so many other variables that come down to that. And I think at the time with them, I'm guessing reuniting, they might have not put a lot of credence into who's actually going to buy these things. When in hindsight, they should have realized that their audience grew up and everyone's working.
Everyone's got money
Everyone's
now,
got that disposable income.
And if you're going to buy a Bay, this is the one you're going to sell them to. You're not going to sell it to the new kid coming up that's just hearing about them, you know? So, who am I to say to a company that's 100 years old? But, being on the inside, you see how a lot of that works, And
was there any bass bodies that were maybe made for Mark that maybe just didn't use or
that I made?
Yes. Yeah.
No, everyone was made specifically for him. I would buy enough wood to buy I was using really high quality alder wood, which is hard to get. You have to pick through a lot of wood to find some really nice, clean, straight pieces, even though you're painting a pink or whatever. When it gets down to people like Mark, they know the difference. It changes the quality. When you start changing the quality of the wood or the components, something doesn't feel right. It doesn't. So I try to adhere to the highest standard of Fender would do, at least. So as far as quality control goes, you could take any neck off any of those bodies and put them on there, and they'd all fit the same and everything else. And that's kind of a lesson in manufacturing. Tooling up your shop to be able to make 6 or 7 things that are exactly the same, and doing it by hand is kind of tricky unless you have a method or you have a jigs or whatever it is set up. But the bottom line is that, what I was kind of trained to do was when a guitar player goes to grab a guitar and they go grab the second one, they can't really tell the difference. Even making guitars with the same piece of wood can sound different. Then now you're going through pickups. You're going through 20 Seymour Duncan JBs just to see which one sounds exactly like the other one, and maybe it's the guitar so you start realizing these fundamentals of guitars that change the sound and that change the feel. What's causing this weird wolf tone on this string? I don't know. It's just, then you realize, well, your string's stretched out. It could be something as simple as that, or you could have a loose truss rod that isn't, that could be, humming at a certain frequency. So there's all these things you kind of that just pop up that arise over the years, and you never stop learning. That's the thing. It's like I've been doing this for 30 some years now, 35 years, and there's always something a new jig, a new tool, a new idea. It's like, hey, this would work or whatever. But I think it takes that mind to keep that. Rather than look at it as a job or something to do, your mind's constantly, looking for newer, better ways. Or sometimes you get posed with a new challenge and you just realize it's just another guitar. I've had some guitars coming in for, like, not to be a huge name dropper, but I mean, most of my clients are working, musicians or people like I've listened to in high school, or you have, people of. And they bring a guitar in or an iconic guitar in that you've seen them play, and you almost have to put it out of your head and just go, you know what? It's another guitar. It has frets, it has nuts, it has a truss rod. You just don't want to be the one to add that extra dent on the top. You don't want to be the one that goes, yeah, I'm the one that did that. So you have to be learning how to fix your mistakes, which happen often due to all kinds of reasons. You could be hasty, you could be impatient, you could whatever reason. A screwdriver can fall on the top of a guitar, and you didn't even, and all you were doing was lifting up a guitar cord, and all of a sudden, so there's all these little things you got to kind of pay attention to in my world and learn how to fix them. Be good, and own up to it too. If you can't, if it's something obvious or whatever, hey man, but you try to keep that at a minimum, and I think any profession, doctors, whatever, somebody's going to slip or have a oops, here and there. But the main thing is like Dave's guitar, your bass, there's all kinds of crazy shit going on. I'm just kidding.
We just painted over it.
I get you all nervous.
There was like a skateboard at one point. Yeah.
There's like some putty, there's a little putty underneath there, but no, anyway,
I was going to say one interesting thing with that, because like Mark's famous for like the pink of his basses.
Yeah,
and I remember speaking. I think people would find it interesting, but how you did the paint for that bass, because it was quite an unorthodox kind of process, wasn't it, to get that shade of pink?
It's automotive. It's automotive paint. Yeah, and there's a Pantone color called Shocking Pink. And when there's a Pantone chart, it really helps because I can go to the auto paint store and they have formulas for all that stuff, and but there's the base coat too. You have to do a white base, see, for the shocking pink. If you just went over wood with that, it would have a whole different tone. If you went over black, it would have a different tone. Even though you can't see through it, the base coat really makes a big difference. Automotive finish versus lacquer versus oil. These are a whole nother aspect of building and custom building that you got to know. What's the best finish for this application? Well, I could have done the shocking pink finish in lacquer. Excuse me. It would have yellowed. It would have checked. It would have chipped easily. It wouldn't give me what you wanted. So the only other option was automotive finish. And for say like Blink, who's touring, or yourself, where you're out playing all the time, you need something that's going to hold up. Something that if it gets scuffed, you can wipe it off or buff it out, or whatever. It's got some durability to it. And so now that's a whole nother finishing is a whole nother learning curve. In fact, today I was just scraping the paint off a guitar I painted because it didn't come out the way I wanted it to. I couldn't sand it off. I had no other choice but to scrape it off. And there's an hour and a half of my life I'll never get back. And so with finishing, anybody who paints will tell you you're going to have more paint on the floor than you will on guitars over the years. Because even when I was doing Mark's guitars, I was doing, I think, 3 bodies at once. And I was spraying the clear coat on. And the pink one just turned into cottage cheese for no reason. It just everything was going smooth as glass. And then all of a sudden I turn around and it looks like cottage cheese. And it's just like, what? What would possibly cause this? Well, then you jump down the rabbit hole. Well, there's humidity issues. Is there mud in your lines? Blah, 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 blah. I mean, there's all these things. Bottom line, sand it off, start all over again. Wait till it dries, start off. And so it's a really unforgiving process because it can add a ton of time to your build that you can't charge for. Some people would try, I guess, but or you can just farm it out. You can farm it out to a professional painter, spend the extra money, and hope it comes back exactly the way you want it, or things like that. But as a builder, I kind of learned to tailor what I'm making towards whoever I'm making it for. So the automotive thing was definitely, and we shot automotive at Ibanez because you can get any color you want, and once you get the process down, it's colors, a lot of hours of color sanding, sanding out the wrinkles, polishing, buffing. Then you buff through a corner. Well, how do you touch that up? Lacquer, you can just brush it on. Automotive, you got to sand it, prime it, shoot that whole area again, just as if you were on a car, re-clear coat, and so it's really you'll never stop learning with paint. That's just all I got to say. But hopefully that wasn't too long of an explanation. But
no, that's good.
So Matty, so you after Blink-182 and whatnot, Mark made another band called Simple Creatures, where him and Alex from All Time Low were kind of a duo, and they were different basses and guitars for that. So my understanding is you did the guitars for that as well. The jazz master.
I don't recall. Honestly.
It was the black and white, wasn't it? So there's the Jag black and white, and then like white.
Was it a one pickup? Oh yeah, I did. Yeah, that's right. Yeah. I did, because I remember. Yeah. Did I make another one for you?
There
was somebody else I made that. Okay, because there was somebody else that I made a similar guitar for based on that one. Wow, that's so weird. I forgot about some guitars I actually made. Yeah, I remember that, and that was again through Robert Ortiz.
Okay.
Yeah, everything and anything that happened with Blink was through Robert. Yeah.
Was there anything unique about those instruments at all? Kind of the same thing, just different color for the bass and
basically, yeah. They were made with the same wood, alder, and they were just modified versions of a Fender. Now that you mention it, I do remember that now. Yeah, because I have the pattern for that. But really neat guitars. Yeah. So it's so strange. You rang my bell.
Well, with the amount I'm sure you made, I'm sure there's quite a few that you've forgotten about over the years. It's
not by choice, but yeah, I never expected. there's a lot of crazy things that I'm going to say in my world because it's my world, and there's a lot of crazy, unexpected things that came out of a lot of this, And first, the drive to do it was wanting to hand the guy his guitar on stage. Well, you do that for a while, and then all of a sudden you're in the studio with them, and you're sitting next to them, and you're having normal conversations with them, and you realize you're part of this group. Um, you're in this little clique, and it's kind of neat. But as a builder, I realized one thing that was the most satisfying was that as a frustrated guitar player, I'm totally capable of shredding if I want to, but I'm not musically inclined, and I'm not theoretical. I know what somebody can teach me. That's about it, and that's enough for me. But being a builder, making something for somebody that inspires them to play differently or play better or instantly when they put it in their hands, and this was a weird byproduct, and I didn't realize this till much many years later. um, there's a certain sense of satisfaction that comes over their face if it's good.
Yeah.
And or it's almost like a sigh of relief, like, oh wow, I can finally like play it like it's supposed to, or my fingers can finally do what they were supposed to do but couldn't before because of whatever, whether it's frets or neck shapes or things like that. And then at Ibanez, to reiterate that, is sitting down with these people and breaking down what really makes their guitars tick. And sometimes you get it. Sometimes you pick it up and go, oh, no wonder why he can stretch from here to here. The neck's only this thick or whatever. Or some people want a big fat baseball neck because they grab and they play really hard. And some people want little frets, and then you realize why, and put it in the memory bank. So when somebody walks in the shop and goes, I really like this Les Paul, but the neck, I don't know, well, let me feel it. And then you're like, maybe you're feeling this edge is too sharp or this and that. And give some examples. And but what I was leading up to is that to make something that makes somebody play something differently or connect differently to what they're doing, it's a different element that nobody really thinks of. And it's not something you would strive for. Like, you don't start making guitars to go, oh, I hope one day I'm going to make something for somebody that's just going to blow their mind. No, it happens organically over time. And then what's with this neck? Wow, this neck, it feels amazing. I want one just like this. Okay, let's make you one like that then. And there's a lot of guys with CNC machines that'll digitize it and scan it and put it in their machine, and at the end clean up the lines and put it together, and there you go. But there's something organic about making something by hand for somebody that when they put it in their lap. And I'm going to use Alan Johannes. I don't know if you're familiar with Alan, but Alan's been around a long time. And he's my main cigar box. I say cigar box, sig fiddle guy. What he does on a guitar and what came out of him after getting his has changed his life and mine. I mean, it was just like, wow, here's a real musician. Like, he'll tell you where he's at, what keys in, blah, 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 blah. But what he's doing is unlike anybody else. I've never seen anybody else play like that. But he doesn't play it on anything else. He only plays it on his cigar box, and he still plays it 25 years later. He's still out touring with it and playing with it. And the album that came out of it, the songs that came out of it, just the feeling you get hearing him play it, it's just wow. And then it hit me one day. I was like, I made that. Like, I got stoned
That's
one day and made that. And now this guy's playing this. So as a guitar maker, all I can say is, and I'm not super religious, but I'm truly blessed to be able to have made a career and lived to be that person that can deliver that to an artist, a fellow artist. It's like giving an artist a paintbrush, like who's never painted, it's like take this and do something with it, and then they do something miraculous or just spectacular. And how do you teach that? Is there a class for that? Can you go to college for that? I mean, is it even a concept? I don't know. So it's really my career has just been nothing but amazing, and I've had amazing support too. I've had the people in my life have always supported me, and and everything just worked out,
Yeah.
So
So Matty, what do you have? Maybe we'll kind of wrap it up a little bit, but what do you have kind of
yeah,
going on now? Obviously, the shop is the address of the shop is.
it's 3016 North Hollywood Way, Burbank, California. And
And
I
do you,
don't have a website. I only have an Instagram account. I post random stuff. I don't always post guitar stuff anymore, but I don't post everything that I'm doing.
Mhm.
A lot of stuff I do with certain clients, I'd rather just kind of keep out of the,
Yeah, yeah.
um, you know, another thing I learned too about having, I'm going to say it's a privilege of being where I'm at in this in this biz, is that braggers usually don't back up what they have. Like I've met a lot of guitar people over the years, and I'm not trying to bag on any one person, but a lot of people will use that one or two famous person that they did work for as a leverage to try to boost them into another level of whatever,
Yeah.
charging more money or whatever.
Yeah.
But they're still working out of their garage, which
Yeah.
God bless them is cool. I mean, I think it's nothing wrong with that. But when you dedicate your life and spend everything you've made, putting it back in the shop and machinery and in tools and wood, I have a wood collection that's just amazing. So I mean, it never really ends. I'm not here to get. I knew when I started I'd never get rich doing this, but the wealth that I've received is you can't buy it. You can't teach it. You can't buy it. And so as far as the shop goes, I'm doing a lot of modifications on guitars lately, uh, hollowing out Gibson Les Pauls to make them much lighter.
Oh wow.
Figuring that out was a whole nother process. There's certain people like that they get the moon,
Yeah.
and it's not
Yeah.
because they're wealthy. It's because they really appreciate what they're
Yeah.
getting, and their loyalty is just unbelievable. When you deliver, and in this world, where service is just getting lame everywhere, to come into a place where you can deal with somebody one on one and
Mhm.
figure it out and get it. I mean, it's kind of a rarity these days, and it's hard to put a price on.
Yeah. To get
Because you
that
could say,
one-on-one is
Yeah.
well,
It's
non-existent,
priceless.
really.
that's one thing, but another thing to do is not make someone wait a year for their guitar. Like
Yeah.
you're going to
Yeah.
get your guitar in 6 to 8 weeks. And I'm
Yeah.
by myself, and I have to run my business too. But I figure it out, and so all these years of doing that, it's kind of coming naturally. And from what I understand, from my wife tells me I have ADD. So to have six different projects going on at one time is
Yeah.
amazing.
It's a good thing.
I
Yeah.
I can get
Yeah.
I mean I figured out I didn't know I'd never been properly diagnosed, but all I knew was that I can keep six things juggling here and answer the phone and deal with the people and try to do it the best I can. Some things fall through the cracks, but and I have to satisfy my creative side too. If I get an
Okay.
idea, uh I'll show you really quick. I had this piece of wood was a shipping crate
Oh
from
wow.
a window. It was a giant window box. It was a piece of okume wood, so I thought, well, and the plywood. This is birch
Oh,
plywood I
wow.
used on my sig fiddles, 1/8 inch. So I bent some sides and I had a neck I had already started, and
Wow.
so
Oh, that's so cool.
I
And that's
literally put
birch,
it
you said?
together in a few days. Yeah, this is birch ply, this is mahogany, and then this is 4-ply plywood, almost a
That's
quarter
so
inch thick,
cool.
with one brace. There's just one brace factory.
Wow.
And but I get you get an idea, you got to roll with it. It's like
You
a
got to
song
act on it.
coming to
Yeah.
your head. I look at
Yeah.
it like a song coming to your head. You're driving down the road, a song comes to your head. What are you going to do? Well, now you have the iPhone, hit record, boom, go. But
Yeah.
otherwise, you'd have to, like back when I was younger, so to speak, I'd have to get a payphone and call my voice recorder at home and be like, and then go to A, and then come home and
Yeah.
listen to the voice recorder. So anyway, but as a guitar maker goes, you get a bug in your ass or you find a piece of wood that all of a sudden sounds amazing. It's like, oh, I got to do something with this,
Yeah.
So all I can say is I'm blessed and I'm very lucky, and thanks for having me. I
Oh, well,
hope I
thank
didn't
you
talk to you.
for
Taking the time.
coming on.
Yeah.
I didn't talk your ear off too much.
No. This has been amazing, honestly, and it's good to see that, even after all these years, you still have that creative side that you still act on, even with those 6 things and 7 things juggling all at the same time, and maybe missing a beat here and there, but for the most part, it's quite the story, Matty. And I to be honest, like going into this, I know Sully and you obviously had that connection before, and so coming in, I was into this, I was really excited to hear really how it started. Like I know obviously from the Blink days because running the gear page and stuff, but just seeing how it started and where you're at now is and this isn't just for the episode, but it really is inspiring just to see that, like,
thank you.
The people that sometimes are scared to take that jump because of that unknown, you don't know unless you do it. So,
and I only wish that this would be taught at a young age.
Yeah.
Because and I'll leave you on this. And this is a very, very real thing. This is what I'm going to tell you. It's not. I've heard Arnold Schwarzenegger say it. I've heard all these major successful people say it, and I didn't even realize that it applied to me in my life, which was visualize it. Visualize it. Everything that, like I mentioned to you earlier, when how do you get that job, handing him his guitar? And then it was a vision that never left my mind. It was a question. It was like, well, how do you get that job? Well, you got to know somebody, and you got to kind of be cool. You can't be a dork, and you have to own up to your mistakes, and you have to be honest, and you have to, and so these are things I was raised with, these values. And so, but everything that's happened to me, I visualized my own shop. I visualized making guitars for people, not on the level that happened. I always shot low. I kept my sights kind of low and reasonable. Gene Simmons once said when he started, his vision was to play Madison Square Garden. That's a big deal. When I was in a band, my vision was I wanted to play the Whiskey. I played the Whiskey. Yes, it was on a 1 a.m. on a Friday night after everyone left, but I played the Whiskey.
Visualize it. That's awesome.
So set your sights. I think if I was to give any advice, expect everything and walk through doors when they open, and always trust your gut. So many things have happened to me prematurely, at least I thought were premature. My building came up. Oh, this building came up. My girlfriend at the time worked for a company. Oh, this great building came up for $750 a month. I was like, I gotta get it, but I have a job. What am I gonna do? Well, I'm getting the building, no doubt. I have to get it. The door opened, and then boom! All of a sudden, I left the company that had all this security, and But you have to rise to the occasion. You have to eat it. Nothing's going to be handed to you, and you have to work your ass off for it. But visualizing is such a big part of it, and not straying away from that vision, or letting somebody else or anybody get you off track from that, whether it's drugs or a better offer. You might make more money selling, whatever, blah, 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 door to door. Well, what do you really want to do when you wake up in the morning? I don't want to make guitars. I don't want to go sell whatever. So, but you got to just do it.
Yeah.
You visualize it and do it. And any excuse is just going to hold you back.
So true. So true.
Yeah. I think a lot of it's really basic knowledge, but that's me. I don't know. I think there's a lot of talented people out there that could be doing exactly what they want to do for in their life and never really comes to fruition because of they're afraid or maybe they're in a health position or something. But people overcome stuff all the time, so anyway.
It's very true. Yeah. On that note, Matty, thank you again so much. This was a complete honor to have you on.
You guys.
Thank you.
So good to see you.
It's good to see you too. And hopefully we'll see each other again soon.
Hopefully. Yeah. I have to come over again and get another guitar, I think.
All right. I got a few here.
Oh, yeah.
We'll be there.
Yeah.
All right, gentlemen.
Thank you so much.
Thanks so
much. Thank you.
Thanks for watching, guys, and we'll see you in the next one. Bye for now.
Have a good one.